Good morning, everyone. Hello. Good morning to the webinar about planning and budgeting about CSRD. We are happy to have you over here. So let's get started with everything. My name is Skadi Mobius. I'm CEO and co-founder of Move to Impact, and I'm here with my colleague, Jesse.
Hi, Jesse Bruinzels. I'm a project manager at Move to Impact, and I focus on the materiality analysis and ESRS and CSRD in general.
Yes. Before and while everyone is trickling in a little bit this morning, I would like to start with the one-word check-in. How is everyone doing this morning? Just give us one word in the chat how you've been. For me, it actually has been a chill morning. I had a relaxed morning. How was it for you?
Good to hear for you. Yeah, that's the same. Thank you. My one word is I'm excited to do this presentation. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Camilla says busy. Good morning, Camilla. Nice to have you here as well. The other participants, one word check-in. What is your one word for this morning? To let some other people trickle in. Motivated, nice, yeah, excited from yes, motivated from Ehsan. Good morning, Ehsan. Nice to have you here. Everyone.
Nobody is scared yet for the
CSRD indeed. But good to have you here, everyone. We are telling you today a little bit more about the budgeting and the planning of CSRD. We will take you along in all of that. First of all, let's tell you a little bit more about Move to Impact. Indeed, Move to Impact is a company where we have sustainability and IT and data consultants to support companies in their CSRD process. We develop tools, programs, and also have the consultancy part, obviously, to support you in your CSRD process. But obviously, for us, the main point and what we really focus on to make it as practical as possible, and therefore we definitely see is the data part one of the elements, but we see that CSRD obviously is quite a process and complex, so we try to squeeze it in the practical parts and take some of the paperwork of the heavy load away from you. We will tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But yes, can you tell us a little bit what we are going to talk about today?
Yes. Today we have a webinar about CSRD. We will start with a short introduction about, again, maybe a refreshment for some people. What is CSRD again? Why are we doing this? Next thing that we will talk about is our 8 steps to CSRD. We have made together with partners 8 steps to tackle your whole CSRD process. You will learn all about it. Following, I will tell you a bit more about the project planning, like these 8 steps. How much time should you take off for that? How many resources? These are important things before you start, because it can be quite a big project. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So these are I think, important things to share with you. Yeah. Then obviously we have some frequently asked questions that we see coming back often, like what is double materiality analysis? What is the function of it? Is it mandatory in CSRD? And the same about ESRS indicators. So that's an impact dashboard. That's something that we will tell you about. And then, of course, the main CSRD cost drivers, the main theme of this webinar is to give you some insight into what you should take into account when budgeting for CSRD. Yep. And at the end, we, of course, we propose a problem, but we also have a solution for you. We have different ways in which you can kick off your CSRD journey and be compliant before 2025, hopefully.
And definitely during the presentation, just write your questions in the chat. Afterwards, you also can ask all your burning questions, but I know sometimes it's specific to a specific slide or topic. Just put them in a chat and we will answer it or come back on it on the later part. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I said, a short introduction about CSRD, a refreshment. What is it again? CSRD is a law from the European Union that requires large companies to report about sustainability. And to make maybe a comparison with normal reporting, that is something that large companies already have to do. They have to report about their financial situation, and they have to hand this in. And the same will happen with some sustainability topics. And so you will have to write a yearly report about this. And what is special about this is that it will also be checked by an auditor. The same with your financial reporting.
Yeah, so your accountant, basically. So we often take into account and talk to the accountants from our clients to see how updated they are on CSRD, because most of the times they're also afraid of this a little bit, because they obviously have the knowledge of financial parts, not so much of the CSRD part. So we take them along in the journey so that you also know that your accountant will be up to date and will be up to date on your process also.
Yeah. One more important thing, who does the CSRD apply to? It applies to companies with over 250 people personnel, companies with a total balance sheet of 20 million, or companies with a revenue of 40 million yearly. And when two of these three boxes check for you, then you have to adhere to CSRD. Short introduction, why CSRD? Why did the European Union introduce this law? First of all, it replaces the previous non-financial reporting. There was already non-financial reporting, so sustainability reporting. It was in place for listed companies. Now it will be extended also to large companies that are not listed. And obviously, yeah, it's to achieve the Green Deal targets and combat things like climate change and sustainability issues in general.
Yeah. Also some big main corporates outside of Europe with a big revenue and inside Europe also are going to need to report on these elements. For the trajectory of the medium-sized companies, it's definitely said that they will come basically in 3 years. However, they will probably be much smaller for them than obviously for the big ones. However, the medium-sized companies will already feel the requests from the corporates in the next 2-3 years, obviously, because the big corporates will ask a lot of questions of their suppliers. So therefore, medium-sized companies should already start a little bit in that direction so that they are not overwhelmed by the requests of the corporates on specific topics of CSRD.
Yeah. I'll show you a visual about this in the next slide. So it's on top of that, it's also to create transparency. Of course, if you are an investor, you want to know about the financial position of your company, but you also want to know about other aspects, maybe risks, sustainability risks. So it's not only about sustainability, but it's also about creating transparency for investors, for banks who are giving a loan to companies, etc., etc. NGOs can use this. Yeah. And last but not least, it gives very clear guidelines. It gives uniform guidelines. Previous non-financial reporting or sustainability reporting was always a struggle because every company did it in a different way. Every company had to figure out, how should I report this? They could all choose their own method. And with CSRD, there's finally a uniformous way in which all companies report on the same topic in the same way. This is the timeline we were talking about. So when does CSRD start? For listed companies on the stock exchange, it already starts in 2024. That means they have to start measuring over 2024, and they have to report, they have to finish their report in 2025, over 2024. If you are a large company but not listed, then CSRD reporting starts for you in 2025. That's when you have to start measuring the whole year of 2025. And then beginning of 2026, your report should be ready.
So basically 2024, and now is your preparation time basically of like setting everything up, which we will talk later.
Yeah, but very true. If you want to start measuring in 2025, you have about 1.5 years to set all your measuring equipment up, to get your reporting equipment done, get your data structure right. Yeah. So that's what we will talk about. And the last block in 2027 is when probably CSRD reporting light, it will be a milder form, but will also be required for small companies. And like Skadi said, yes, it's 2027, but what we already see in practice is that large companies already have to report in 2024 or 2025. And what they do is they also send this message down the value chain. So if you are a supplier to a large company, then probably you've already seen questions coming by and from the large companies that have to report.
So therefore, we developed 8 phases to guide companies through CSRD process. This is basically for our tools, but also for our consultancy part. And we developed this phase with partners together, with accountants, sustainability experts, and data experts, but also with our clients together, and tested it. We will show that later a little bit. But in general, you can think about that it's really going from like understanding and sustainability acknowledgement and information part to a data structuring part. Therefore, you can see in these 8 phases that we start obviously with a project preparation, so that the company and a team is basically understanding what all is coming, like what are the different steps, what are specific informations they need, and how they have to set it up within their companies, so that you can align it with your internal project planning, with your peaks and low times, basically, so that it's better in there. It's really the key basically on the timing. Then there are 3 phases: the current company KPIs, materiality analysis KPIs, and the ESRS KPIs, which form the list basically you have to report on. So obviously we start with your current company KPIs, that are the KPIs that you are currently measuring or which you want to reach with your company on a social, ecological, and financial level, and really to see where you're standing. And then you have to do from the law a double materiality analysis, where you contact your stakeholders about risk and opportunities on impact and governance topics. So it's really on social, ecological, and financial topics, so that you see where you stand and how you can integrate that. Based on this analysis, you have to basically match that with the ESRS indicators, like it said over there. ESRS, European Sustainability Reporting Standards, are the rules of CSRD. Yes, we will tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But basically, when you have the materiality analysis, you then have to check on the ESRS list which are the most important, most risk for you, and biggest opportunities for you, and therefore you have to report on them. And the others you can like reason about why you shouldn't or don't need to report on them, because it's really on the highest opportunities and like highest risk for you. On the others, you don't need to report. So it's an important part to really do this materiality analysis, is crucial to you. So it is definitely a scope changer for your company. Then you connect all these KPIs with each other, even like needs and factors from your sector and your clients, so that you take them into consideration and basically have your list of things you want to measure and need to measure for your company to be compliant for CSRD. Therefore, if you know what you have to measure, then you can set up your IT structure. This IT structure and the support of it, we will start already a little bit in the project preparation, because obviously most of the time the IT and data people have a lot of like backlog and a lot of time planning. So it's important to include them already earlier. And then they can build basically the data warehouses, the data lakes, like the different infrastructure of the IT system that supports your reporting, so that you can develop a continuous reporting process, because otherwise you pick up the information once from your suppliers or everything, and then you have to do it again. So everything, all the effort you put in the last steps, you have to do again in the next year. So therefore, it's very important to set up a continuous reporting structure. When you have basically worked with the IT department together, then you can put an impact dashboard in place, which is your steering reporting elements, so that you don't only have to measure for the government, but that you put a dashboard together for yourself. What is really important? What are the success criteria for your company on social, ecological, and financial level that you actually can steer your company in the good direction you want to steer it in, and also measure CSRD. This is the bonus basically for you, but use it also for your advantage. And then you can report for CSRD, and then you're ready basically. Any questions to that is completely fine. Also in the chat, I saw Camilla for it, but I think on this question we can also back later. You can basically, digest basically these 8 phases and 3 bigger parts. This is the design phase, so really like starting up with everything and prepping everything and structuring your project. Then the implementation phase, to pick up your data and like to build your IT structure, and then the reporting phase. As well, the implementation phase is really the biggest phase basically you will face within the CSRD process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just want to say one more time again, and what Skadi also said, but making the dashboard is not mandatory from CSRD law, but we always very much recommend it. So CSRD is not just something that is an exercise that you have to do by law and you gather all this data and then you do nothing with it. We always say maybe put it in a dashboard or use it in some way so you can use this data and you've gathered it. And you can use it to steer your company, and you can actually make it useful. Yeah. Like I said before, we tested and developed this 8 steps with our clients, with Dutch Flower Group, Rougher Trading, and other companies. So far, we guided guiding 32 countries within this CSRD process. Mm-hmm. But yes, I think we wanted to also check in with the frequently asked questions, because I think the materiality analysis is a big topic and definitely needs a little bit more explanation. Yeah, exactly. So one question that we often get is, what is a materiality analysis? What are the minimum requirements as well? Yeah. But also, what is the function of it? So again, how can my company profit from this materiality analysis without it being just a government exercise? Also, can it be useful for the company? So in that sense, I will start with the very basics. Materiality analysis is a mandatory part of CSRD. A lot of people even see it as the beginning of CSRD. So why is it mandatory? Materiality analysis checks your company and checks the surroundings of your company, what we call stakeholders. So that's not shareholders, but it's stakeholders. All the stakeholders and different parties around your company. You're going to check with banks. You should maybe have some interviews or maybe some questionnaires with maybe NGOs, local community. It depends on your company, which are relevant stakeholders. For every company, this might be a different group, but usually there's some suppliers, there's some clients, and you're going to check what are material topics for this company. What are the most important topics? What are risks and opportunities? This is mandatory. So that means you have to do a stakeholder outreach in a way that you choose, but there's multiple options. We can either do a questionnaire, we can do interviews, we can do a combination of both. Mm. And in that sense, you are checked so you are checking your material topics for your company. What are the most important sustainability topics? And we do that in 2 ways. First way is, what is the effect of your company on the outside world, on the planet? What's the effect on society? What's the effect on the environment? And the other way around is also very useful for your company. What is the effect of society and what's the effect of environment on your company, on the financial effects? For example, we already see environment having a lot of effect in the European economy. One example is the river that is now that's flowing, less water is flowing through European rivers, for example, because there's less snow in the mountains. So in that way, less can be transported throughout the river. So I see a lot of companies already looking for alternative modes of transport. And in that sense, there will be way more environmental effects, but also societal effects that will affect the financial position of your company.
Yeah, precisely. And when we talk about materiality analysis or double materiality analysis, like there are different forms basically of a materiality analysis. So far, till the CSRD came out, just a normal materiality analysis. So a check basically on your risk and opportunities of your social, financial, and ecological topics were fine to just see what our topics are important for us. And now with the CSRD, it's mandatory to do the double materiality analysis. So what Jesse just said, with like the checking the outside in and the inside out basically way with your surrounding. And obviously that has like different effects. And we also developed a tool on that to make it a little bit easier to pick up the information in the first place and then be able to integrate it later on.
Yes, yeah, we developed the automated materiality tool for at least the questionnaire part. Why is this so important as well for the larger process of CSRD? It's not just a standalone materiality analysis. CSRD is, and that's the next slide, CSRD is all about the ESRS, the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. Like I said, these are standards in which you have to report about sustainability. We can look at, for example, E2, it's about pollution. There are certain rules. If you're going to report about pollution, you're going to have to do it in this and this way. The same with social aspects. You're going to have to report some topics about your own workforce, but also maybe about workers in the value chain, all different topics.
Yeah.
And the importance of the materiality is that you don't have to report on all of these books. You have to report on general 1, you have to report on general 2, you have to report about environment, so E1 climate. And the rest of the E's you don't have to do unless they turn out to be material topic.
Yeah, for example, obviously, like if you're a production company and you have specific chemicals or something, then the pollution part definitely takes a role for you. But if you're a service company, probably like marina and water doesn't take such a big topic basically for your company as it is for others.
Yeah, basically with the materiality analysis, you're going to check all these topics, indeed water, marine resources, biodiversity, and you're going to check, is it relevant for your company? If it turns out to be relevant for your company, then you have to report according to these guidelines. If it turns out to be not relevant, then you don't have to report. Only E1, so climate is relevant and is mandatory for every company, and S1 is mandatory for every company.
The own workforce, because obviously you have employees.
Yeah, so those two are mandatory for every company, and also general 1 and 2. But the rest of these are only mandatory if it turns out in the materiality analysis that this is a material topic for you, for your company.
Yeah. And this is basically what you also can consider when there are questions now about like, oh, so what is sure and what is not sure about CSRD? There are a lot of confusions about like, what can we do already, but nothing is sure yet. No, that's not true. There is like the half of it is completely out there. Like Jesse said, like the general parts you can see here, and the first part of each of them is completely sure. The materiality analysis is completely sure. You know that your IT structure needs to be probably adjusted, or you have to check on that. There is a lot to do basically to prepare for most of companies, because that makes it easier for you later on.
Mm-hmm. Then we will go to example planning. Of course, for every company, this is different. Depends how much time you want to take, depends how fast your company is, depends upon your preferences. But this is an example planning that we made. So we start with the project preparation. These are our 8 phases, by the way, that Scott just explained. Mm-hmm. And we start with the project preparation, and it can overlap with the current company KPIs. So we take the first few weeks to check what is already available in your company, what are personal wishes, what are like company specific things. Maybe you have a lot of client requests already, also coming from inside of your company or from clients that you want to incorporate. Then we take a lot of time for the materiality analysis. And this is, this is a good estimate, because we see like reaching out to stakeholders, getting into contact with people, it always takes a lot of time. And after, and after this, also, you need to get insight into the risks and opportunities on these different topics.
So what you can basically say is like for the first two phases, you need like 2 months approximately. Most of the phases are completely up to your time planning most of the time. So it's really more on like, hey, how available are you, and what is coming into your schedule at the moment. Then that is like on the steps that needs to be taken. So that can be, the 2 phases can be done in like 2 months. The materiality analysis definitely takes 3 to 6 months for a company. So therefore, that is one preparation step which can be done already, and which gives you a lot of freedom and has no impact on your complete employees or anything. It's really not that heavy on the time you have to spend for that, for the first part of like getting basically the information from your stakeholders. It's more on like integrating the results of the materiality analysis into your strategy, which is a little bit more time consuming, because you need, obviously, if you identified risk and opportunities, to create a mitigation plan and like action plan to take it along into your strategy and vision of your company, because it's a unique opportunity for your company also to understand what your stakeholders need and want. Then the matching of the ESRS indicators and KPIs and with your client needs also needs like 1 to 2 months, because the list is basically ready. We created this list for you so that we can match them basically with the materiality topics. But then the big part and the biggest chunk of the work of the data collection and measuring part starts. You can think about that within like 2 main steps in that sense. Like one is really the setting up part of the data collection, which takes like something about like 3 to 5 months for most companies. So to let people in your organization understand what actually is asked from them. So you really can think about, oh, so what are the addresses of your suppliers, and like, do they have any sustainability certifications, or are you fulfilling specific EU laws which are important for your sector, or are you paying specific elements in your HR process, and how are they included in that? Are you measuring your homework commutes basically for your employees? All these elements you have to think about, and obviously you have to set up a procedure for that, so that in the next years you don't have to do that all by hand all the time, but that your systems basically are ready for that. So people, the departments need to know about that and need to be trained about it. They have to understand how to connect that to the IT system, and they have to like really work on that. So what is the automated like way of reporting to that? So that is really a setup part. And then the automated part really comes, that probably there are workarounds in the beginning, and then you have to integrate it in a complete system when the IT and data team is ready to integrate that. So first 3 to 5 months on the data collection and measuring part. And then you can also think another 5 months, basically. So you see, only on the data collection and measuring part, that can definitely take up to 10 months for your company to set everything up. And then it's an easier process to put together an impact dashboard, more on like, what are your priorities, what are your success criteria, and then reporting on CSRD. So all in total, we really think about with companies and prepare them for like a CSRD preparation, like just preparing everything to be able to measure the first set is definitely like 1 to 1.5 years, and to really be able to like automate report on that is like 1.5 to 2 years, basically, to give basically the data and IT team the time to do so. So that's why the complete setup, it's like this 1 year, and then the errors are basically pointing out depending on the complexity of your company.
Yeah, and that's why we always recommend automating as much as possible, because it's a yearly report. You're going to have to do it every year. So try to automate it, save on cost, save on a lot of effort in your organization, and try to standardize and automate as much as possible.
Yeah. So we promised to talk about the costs. So let's talk about it. You see like the big parts basically in all of that. You see, oh God, 1 to 2 years I have to think about. So let us walk you through the general costs. So the main costs in the beginning is really like the inform and train yourself and the team about CSRD. So to find like an effective way about that so that you know how to start and how to start for your company, basically, because for every company, it's a tiny bit different, like your legal structure of your company is different. Some, especially like the corporates, which have to fulfill right now the CSRD, they really have like Christmas trees of basically legal structures and have to see which of the companies have to fulfill which like reporting element basically of the CSRD. So take your time for that so that you can understand it, so that later on you don't have to make it too complex, basically, that your scope can get smaller. The better you know in the beginning, the smaller gets your scope basically in the end of the project. Then it's important, and that's the main cost or a big cost in the general CSRD process, is the project management. There really, and that's what we really say, is there need to be one person dedicated to the through the whole process. It doesn't need to be like a seasoned sustainability consultant or a change consultant. It can be also a young consultant, because we created a learning platform that guides someone completely through the whole CSRD process on our 8 steps, that someone can push basically everything forward in your company. But don't underestimate that part, because otherwise really the load is getting too much for everyone and there is no overview. Like you see, there are a lot of small processes and a lot of steps to be taken in this, and it's important that one person always is dedicated to that. In the first beginning or the first half of these 8 steps, we see that it's taken on, especially from a sustainability or change responsible, basically, either in your company. It can also be a reporting person or general project manager within your company, but this is most of the time what we see in the beginning. And then the second part, which is more heavy on the data part, we see a lot of times that either the financial department or the reporting department or data team is taking the lead in that part. But definitely, we saw in projects when there wasn't a project manager present, there were a lot of questions and was overwhelming the C-level, and that created a lot of extra pressure and actually like slowed down the process like way much, like threw them like even back a couple of months. So it's important that someone is like slowly but surely like guiding this process along. Then obviously you need like some expertise in that. So there need to be some sort of CSRD consultant or data consultant. That's what we also want to let you know. It's important that you understand it's a data and sustainability effort basically in there. We see a lot now that change consultants and sustainability consultants like, oh yes, we can guide you through CSRD. But actually, as you saw, like, and as you hear also from CSRD, it's a lot about reporting and about data. And most of the time, it's necessary basically that your IT structure is supported directly from the beginning and the questions are answered about that, because if you don't take it along and if you don't integrate it in your project planning, your IT department and data department will be so much behind. Most of the times they have anyways pipelines from half a year to a year that you can like insert something or that they will build something for you. But they have like such a long timeline that you need to include them from the beginning, because otherwise when you just prepare yourself and come to it later, it actually will create much more costs. Because then you have to wait, and then also the energy of everyone involved in the project goes down, and also you cannot report on it when you actually want to do it, and you have to work with a lot of workarounds which create also more costs and times. So use the data consultants and sustainability consultants, or like the combination of it directly in the beginning. That's why we focus on both of them, and find it very detrimental basically to the success of this project to have both team members in our consultant teams for our clients. Then it's an important part, the materiality analysis. Depending on the complexity of your company and on your value chain, because from the CSRD, it's important to do the materiality analysis based on your value chain and the stakeholders on that. You can calculate something between 10 to 50,000 euros. By these prices, we give you basically a range of like what change consultants or the big four basically like ask from you. It can even be higher depending on how you want to integrate that, but that is a little bit the number you have to draw with it. 10,000 is really on the lower side, and that is, for example, our materiality analysis tool, where you directly can make your step without too much like outside help, and you can basically start with that like immediately. One other important cost or budget factor is the tooling. You can think about tooling in general, obviously, on your data part. We come to that a little bit later, but CO2 measurement definitely for your company on scope 1, 2, and 3 is important, and will be also asked. It is one of the ESRS data points. Which needs to be measured, and we definitely recommend to use a common tool in the market, and we have also partners on that in our consulting processes, but it's important to just make that easy for you and partner with someone on that. And the other part is the dashboarding part. Why the dashboarding part is because you need a mechanism that when you integrate it basically, or when you said that you integrated the results of your materiality analysis, that you can show that to your accountant. Like on ISO 9001, it's really like a quality measurement that you really can show when are you talking about your data, how are you going to like make decisions on it. And that is what you can do with a dashboard, like our impact dashboard on social, ecological, and financial data. It's important basically to have that in place. That can be done completely by you, but it's more an important step to like keep in mind that it's an interesting thing, but also to keep the motivation up from your employees when you show them basically like what kind of steps they're taking and how basically the projects are measured and they are doing for sustainability. It's really like a little bit a gamified version of like, hey, how can we all together raise our sustainability, social, financial, and ecological aspects of our company. The other main part is the data collection support from all departments, and that is definitely the heavy part on the workforce, so on the total team. So after the analysis basically, and then the setup of the data, this is definitely a heavy load on the workforce, or a heavier load on the workforce, because they need around that time, like for 3 months, like 2 hours per department to really give you information from their systems or from their suppliers to actually set everything up, and that they can say, oh, this is how I want to automatically set it up in the future. And then obviously a really big cost factor is the IT infrastructure adjustments, but that we cannot tell you. This is like a black box in that sense till the data team sees what they have to adjust, and then start with like workarounds and adjust it to the system. The faster it can be adjusted to the system, the less cost intense it's going to get for your company. Are there any questions about that? Because it's like a quite intense topic, and a lot of assumptions, I think, from your side, where you think like, oh, is it really like that? So please ask along. Then as like general lessons learned for the budget, what influenced basically the biggest chunks of the budget when we started is the C-level involvement on that part. It's really, if you see that one of the C-level people are not involved in the project or are against it, it's a big thing, because later on in the process, when you start like working on it, they can go against it. we don't say that they have to be the happiest campers with this project. We understand that, especially also from a financial aspect, that is like quite a thing, but it's important that they are okay with it and that they know about it, and that they think along, because it's important that also from the people who are not so fond of this process, get their opinion and take their opinion and needs along in the process, because then it can be really a collaborative effort, and all the elements of a company can be taken into consideration. If someone is not taken with the from the C-level, they're like can be left feel left out basically later on, and can like work against the process. And especially from the C-level, it can push you back like quite a lot, and can also work against the workforce that has priorities and that can higher the work pressure on them and can increase the burnout rate of your employees. So it's an important factor basically in that, to really take them along and that they are okay with it, and help with the prioritization of the task. The second element is specific determination after materiality analysis. That means, as you see on our 8 phases up there, the project preparation, the current company KPIs, and the materiality analysis, like the information pickup from the risk and opportunities from your stakeholders, can be done. And that's quite a straightforward budgeting element. However, after that, it depends on how complex, how many topics you have. If you're a product or service company, most of the times we see with product companies, they have like a higher budget load basically, and need to do more for CSRD than service companies. But it's not that it's like so much different. It's really important that that it's basically determined more the budget after the materiality analysis, or after like the first input of the materiality analysis. One of the biggest gray zones, we mentioned it already, is really the existing data and reporting structure. So if you really see that you're working with a lot of Excel elements, tables and structures and reporting elements, then it's important that you involve the data team very fast, basically, so that it makes it easier for them to adjust and see and work with you together on the steps on becoming CSRD compliant, because it will be a big thing for them to understand the sustainability part and what is asked from them. And then you can determine basically based on their reactions, or more step by step basically with them, what is needed. So that is really a big gray zone, which we also in our consulting, we have to see per client where they stand and how the IT team is structured and how many people are also in there and are able to include that within their projects. Then it's also a budget part, or which is influencing the budget, is what your clients and stakeholders need. Like I said, for like product companies, you see that they so far already get a lot of requests of like, please report on your CO2 levels. Which certifications do you have? What materials are you using? Are you in the Better Cotton initiative? Depending on your sector, it's like very different. And it's very good if you already take these elements into consideration and take them along basically in this process, because then you set your whole team up for success in the future. Because then when you set that up once, there can be one request and you can look in the like the central system and can like say, oh, this is it. Like we can just like answer it. Anyone in the organization then can answer that if you put it together like once, like these requests. And these requests will just intensify over the next years, because like a lot of corporates have to do that, a lot of medium-sized companies have to do that, so there will be more requests on social, ecological, and financial data of your company. So the automation of that is crucial. Then the fifth part, the capacity and time investment to set it up once for the automation versus, I think we just came to that a couple of times. That is really a crucial part to really set it up once properly. So just 1 year to set it up really will help you in the future. We always say when we go to a client, we want to give you the fishing pole and not the fish, basically, so that you really can do it on your own. You most of the time see with consultants that they're like, oh yes, so we can do that for you. But actually, it's important that you set it up for yourself, that you can do it basically in the long term and don't have constant like consultant costs. That's an important part. What we see also in our consulting with our clients is that when they say, oh, when the load is heavy and they're like, oh shit, they're like really in it in the CSRD process, the thing which actually reduces the costs the most is having time and to be able to like spread out the activities and say like, oh, now it's the summer period, now we can do this and this because it's like lower maintenance. But this means to like start earlier, because like if you have the pressure, then the costs will increase immensely basically. But if you have like time and you can like really start with this, then you can like smear it out a little bit, the process in like the moments and pockets which actually work for your company. But this is important to do now. You still have a little bit time of this like wiggle room, but like from the beginning of next year, the pressure is basically on and it will be increasing much more. Yeah. The sixth element is on the budget. It's that it's a collaboration. There are companies that come to us and say like, please do everything for us. Like we don't want to deal with it. Like the money is not the part, like just do it. And then we say like, we can help you with the structure. We can guide you through it. We can help you interpret it. We can give you policy templates, which you have to report. We can give you automated materiality analysis. We can give you a learning platform. We can give you a lot. However, we are not able to contact your suppliers to get specific information. And we are also not able to access your systems to get all your information out there. This is the part which is definitely the collaboration and needs to be done and needs to be wanted and pushed inside of your company from someone in there. That's why the project manager is important, because then it's really a collaborative effort and then it's like going way smoother. Then the impact dashboard, obviously, like creating a steering tool for your advantage from all this data is like, get your double win from all of this. I mean, like, it's quite a heavy topic. I hear myself talking, you know, like, it's like, it can be quite intense. I'm not lying. However, get your wins from it. I mean, like, it's the time now when it's anyways asked from the government to collect information and data, use this information and data. There are so many interesting AI and data tools and elements out there to help you steer your company in like such an amazing way with social, ecological, and financial data, which is then in reach for you. Do it, use it, and steer your company amazingly. And the last part, obviously, is the accounting and digital delivery, basically, which is an important part. All of our elements on CSRD is aligned and checked with accountants together, that an accounting trail is short, so that they know basically, have you done all the elements of the ESRS, because we have all the templates for all the ESRS books ready for you to fill in, so that also you as a CFO or that your CFO of your company doesn't need to do all the heavy lifting and doesn't know what to write or report on, but that over every template is basically ready and each step contributes to these reporting templates. A lot of talking from me, I have the feeling. So are there any questions from you guys out there about the budgeting and planning so far? Did I forget about something? Yes, or do you think like does something pop up from you where you say, oh, this is what you saw come across working with clients, where it's like, oh yeah, this also influenced the budgeting?
I think you were very complete. I see one question is coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to jump to another meeting. Yes,
the recording will be sent after this meeting. Indeed, yes, Maria.
And we will also share the slides with you.
Yeah, precisely. But let's go to the solutions afterwards, because like this all has been very heavy. There are 3 ways how companies can prepare for CSRD and go for that. Is option 1. We created a digital preparation platform to really reduce the costs a little bit, because like what we said, like the consulting and information part, like where can you get all of it? We put everything together in one learning platform and tasks connected, so that it's not so much on the only learning, but that you know what you have to do for each of these 8 phases, that you can be completely guided through the CSRD process and can contact us or our partners on the different steps.
Yeah, it's made in a way that your sustainability manager or an accountant or maybe even an external internal consultant can use this platform. It's written in such a way that it's very easy to follow. Every phase has different steps that you can follow. So someone from inside your company can prepare your company for CSRD in this way.
Yeah, and that is 1,500 euros per month.
Yeah, and also with every step, there's optional consultancy help. So if they feel like, hey, this is a complicated topic, I want to have a discussion about this, can you check me? Or actually, when they say, maybe I'm very busy this month, can you take over some tasks? And during every step of the process, there's optional consultancy. So that's where we can help you.
Yeah.
The second option is our automated materiality analysis tool. The digital preparation platform is for the whole process. This tool is only for the materiality phase. So for the materiality analysis, it gives you the option to do a materiality analysis, send out the questionnaire to as many people as you like, and have a check with all your stakeholders that you choose on all the materiality topics. So it has all the topics from the ESRS, so you know for sure that you have checked all the topics. And what's very important is it gives you an audit trail, because it's data driven. So it gives all this data from a questionnaire, and you have this to as an audit trail for your accountant or for your auditor later on.
Yeah.
So you have proof why you chose which topics. Third, it gives automatic insight. Like I said, there's a data analysis behind it. So you gather the data, but it also gives automatic insight into the materiality matrix, for example. So you don't have to do the data analysis either.
Yeah.
And then the third option
is the consulting part. We are very transparent with this elements on our services and everything. So because we are talking about the budgeting, so we said, let's be completely honest about like what the elements are and what we are asking from clients. So on the consulting part, to like start with, you can do, for example, do a CSRD quick scan. This quick scan is 4,500 euros from us. So we come for like a half a day to you and be able afterwards with some documents from you, some document exchange, to give you a first indication and overview, what we see, what are the biggest hurdles for you, and where should you, what should you take into consideration to plan actually your CSRD project journey. The second part is the introduction and project preparation phase. So really the first 2 phases to start everything up. So what we said, like if you are able to identify your scope very fine, basically, and understand your IT structure and system, which we do also in these 2 phases, and give you a better indication of like where you are and where you're going, you are able to like be much more successful in the rest of the steps. These 2 phases we propose are like 23,000 euros for these 2 phases, which we guide you through, where we have a lot of workshops with each other and a lot of other elements. Then the third part.
We already talked about this. It's a double materiality analysis tool. Obviously, this only is the tool. You get the data, you get a materiality matrix, but what is also required is to integrate this into your strategy and to check these topics. Maybe you want to do, maybe you get this data from the tool, and then you want to double check, so you want to have some interviews with your stakeholders. So in that sense, you can always expand it, but this is at least the bare minimum.
Yeah, and that is really like directly where you know what you should and can report on the ESRS, so that you identify a little bit better also like how big is it going to be, you know, like the reporting part. So that's like the best part in that sense. And obviously, like we said, we can provide you with data and IT infrastructure consulting. That is always included in our consulting method and services. We can do the loose from the CSRD process in general, basically, for you, but that is not something we can determine without having a look at your IT structure and like talking to your IT and data team. And obviously, we provide a complete CSRD consultancy for all the 8 phases. But we also do trainings and the tooling about it, but you can have a look on our website. What we want to tell you is that we have in September a CSRD bootcamp. So if you say like, hey, I don't know really where this all is going, I want to set up a proper project planning and I want to get started for CSRD. We see a lot of trainings out there for CSRD in general. We thought it's very important to get started. So we have a one-day training where we really help you set up your first ideas of a project planning and to be able to take your company a little bit along in that. So we will explain basically the first phases with you together and have the practical part really on like having you work on your own planning and giving feedback basically from us on that. You can enroll for the CSRD bootcamp in September on the link below you see over there. And for like the really practical aspect of that, basically, this training is 1,750 euros. And then I saw a question in the chat.
Yes.
As a freelance sustainability consultant, is it possible to leverage your platform and tool and asset-based consulting for my clients? If so, what are the steps to familiarize with your tool? Yes, that's absolutely possible. This is why we actually set up this platform, because we see one of the biggest problems out there will be that all the companies get the support we need, because we see all the CSRD consultants have like a capacity struggle basically with that. That's why we setting up like automated tooling. So definitely get in contact with us, Kai, on maybe you can skip to our contact. Please get in contact with us over here on these on the phone number or like on our contacts with Jesse and me. You also can go on our website on the CSRD pages, and there you directly can plan a meeting in our meeting schedule, basically for the CSRD elements. Also the CSRD platform. Maybe you can have a look, then we can directly put the link basically in the we will send it to you, Kai, in a minute as well, but that is definitely possible to get familiar with that. Yeah. Are there any other questions so far? Hi, Adrian. Nice joining us. We are at the last part, basically, of the webinar. So if you have any questions, basically, further on what we just talked about, we're looking to get them. Maybe you can skip to our contact details again, because that's really like contact us basically on these elements, and we can give you detailed information about like where you are with your company and what's basically to come. And we give specific trainings on like project management as well, because we think it's important to train the CSRD consultants or the change and sustainability consultants out there to really integrate also the data and IT consulting in their CSRD preparation, because this is very crucial for all the companies out there in which we are not seeing coming back basically in the most consulting projects. So if you are talking to a CSRD consultant, please make sure that they also integrate your IT and data structure in there, because this will save the most time and will create a realistic planning for you. Then, oh yeah, the question from Camilla about the public and the semi-public organization. Thank you so much, Kai, but good that you brought that back. Indeed, I saw it in between. The public and the semi-public organizations. I have to say, I'm sorry to let you hang on this question, because the EFRAG, the European Financial Reporting Agency, who is actually creating this law, hasn't come back to that question yet. So this is really a gray zone at the moment, where we see that really like service providers for example, like the medical industry and the pharma industry have to do it. However, there are gray zones indeed, like from institutes which they haven't come back to.
Yeah.
If it's a gray zone, then they have a longer time basically to report on that. So, but we definitely can say, hey, it's important to see where your IT and infrastructure is on in general picking up data and reporting. So that is definitely a good part to invest in if you are not sure basically whether you are eligible for the compliance for CSRD or not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
If there are no more questions, then I want to thank you all for attending this webinar. I really enjoyed it. And I hope you did too. I hope you learned something new. If you have any more questions, our contact details are here, so just send us a message. And yeah, I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, have a good Friday and a good weekend, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.